I had heard somewhere the saying that if you have a weakness, make it your strength.
Missouri musicians, then and
now. Mike Gorman from the Copper Creek Band. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you, Jordan?
I'm great. It's good to see you.
You too.
Thanks for being here in person.
You are welcome, and thanks for having me.
Copper Creek Band, Jeff City, Missouri, right?
Jeff City, Columbia, California, and Holt Summit.
I'm excited to talk to somebody from Jeff City because I really haven't yet, and Jeff City is really close to where I'm at. Before we get into the members of the band and what you guys are all about, tell me about the current music scene in Jeff City, if you will, because I know there's a lot of places to play. Is it a thriving scene down there? What's going on?
I don't know that I'm the best person to ask, but I'll tell you what I know. So yeah, I think it's a thriving scene, and in a lot of ways, there are certainly clubs, bars that are available for people to play in, and it depends on your niche, what kind of music you play, what kind of audience you play for. And so there's the bar scene, and with the Copper Creek Band, we do play in some bars, but at my age, I am not a big fan of bars anymore. It kind of makes me sad to see some people and how drunk they can get out in public. And so I would rather stay away from bars. So we play at wineries, so there are wineries around, and it depends how far out you go. But then as you head up towards Columbia, there's some, and towards Millersburg. So there's wineries around, which I think fit us better. And when we started years ago with this band, we were called Apostles Creek. And it was just myself and another gal, and we would just play like farmers markets.
Oh, wow.
And it's kind of where we cut our teeth on music. And so we still do that. So I was the founder of Apostles Creek and continue on and I'm the founders of Copper Creek. And so I've kind of kept the farmers market thing going. So in the summertime, we'll do that once a month. We'll play up at the Brick Street Market in Fulton, and once or twice a year we'll play at the Columbia Farmers Market, which is a pretty cool place to play. So is the Brick Street Market. I really enjoy playing there. The crowd is like the vendors. You're surrounded by vendors.
Oh, that's right.
And they are so supportive, and they're actually listening, and they laugh at my jokes, and so that's kind of a nice thing to do. In Columbia, it's a huge market. They might have a couple thousand people come through on a Saturday morning.
Wow.
And I think, if each of those people would just tip $1 each,
wouldn't that be nice?
I'd go home with a big pocket of cash.
I've talked to a lot of people, and I've not heard of anybody that's tapped into the farmers market side of things. Is that successful for you all because of the type of music that you play? Maybe it's like the demographic is on target for what you all do.
It's successful. It's not financially successful. So you're playing for tips and produce. So if you like lettuce, then you're in the right spot. But the farmers markets are always looking for musicians. So several years ago, when I started playing at the Columbia Farmers Market, I could play there, I don't know, once a month, something like that. But now there are so many musicians that go and perform there. We can play once during the summer and once during the winter. So there's that kind of musical opportunity up there, and they're always looking for people. In Fulton, they don't have as many people who are seeking to perform there, so I still get to play once a month, and probably could play sometimes 2 or 3 times a month if we wanted to. But it's it does get tiring being a musician.
Indeed.
Being a musician is supposed to be this glamorous, sexy job, but it's a lot of carrying heavy stuff around in the middle of the night. So it gets tiring, and especially at my age, I'm 68 now, and it kind of wears me out. And I can understand why people retire from things. So I don't want to play farmers markets every weekend, and I used to. When Apostles Creek first started, we played. Lincoln University started a farmers market back then, and it's still going. And they didn't have anybody to play music, so we played there every weekend. We played there every Saturday, and I was part of their board of getting together and talking about the farmers market. And as they've grown, they've taken on more musicians. But I kind of think now maybe they've fallen away from music. But and it's one of those things where, why do you play music? And for me, it's just, I just wanted to play. And so that's one of the reasons why I did it every Saturday, because I wanted to play somewhere, whatever chance I could get. And so sometimes we'd play like 4 places in one weekend because I just wanted to do it. But I was a lot younger then. So I think it's a good place for people who are starting out and they want to have a place to kind of cut their teeth and learn how to be a performer and have an audience. Because those are good places, and they want people. And I bet you just about any farmer's market you contact will be interested in having somebody come and play.
That's really interesting. I would imagine they're probably not going to turn anyone down if you say, "Can I play for tips?"
Yeah.
I think a lot of musicians, what's that saying? They cut off their hand to spite their face, or something like that. Did I get that right?
Yep, I think so. Or cut off your nose to spite
cut off
your
your
face.
nose. Thank you. There it is. So they just chase the money.
Yes.
And they want that, they go to the bar and they want that 4-hour set for X amount of money, and there you go. Because they're probably thinking they need to get new equipment, and they need all this stuff. But you brought up a good point. You need to learn how to be a performer, and you need to learn how to play for an audience in the beginning. So hopefully more bands and more artists will utilize that.
It's about, why are you playing, and are you playing for money, or are you playing for the love of music? And I don't mind getting paid for playing. I like it because I like having the cash in my pocket. Mm-hmm. My daytime job is a good job, and I'm well paid, but I like making some extra money on the side. And I think of it as a form of validation, that if somebody's willing to pay me to perform, then it makes me feel good. I must be doing something right.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, let's get into the members of the band. There's 6 of you. Mike Gorman, vocals, guitar. Travis Thornhill, guitar, keyboard, vocals. Cindy Gorman, vocals and percussion. Matt Morris, vocals, guitar. Jay Finley, vocals and bass. And David Schwarzer, vocals and drums. And the thing I noticed is that all 6 people do vocals.
Yes.
Because Copper Creek Band specializes in vocal harmony, right?
Yes, we do.
I love harmonies.
I do too. It's one of my favorite things in music. And I think all 6 people are good singers at what we each sing. Cindy, my wife, I think she probably has the most natural voice of all of us. I really have to work hard at my singing. Cindy has a natural voice and a beautiful voice. And we each pick songs that suit our vocal range and our vocal style. And I think we do a good job with that. And, as I was talking about before, when we first started out and it was just 2 of us, well, that's all we did was harmonize. Every single song was harmony all the way through. And that was one of the things that really helped me to develop my ability to harmonize. Like I said, I really have to work hard at my singing, but having that other person there with me gave me that opportunity to harmonize a lot. Years ago, this was back in the 80s, I played in the band, and there were 5 of us, and we'd sing, and the one guy would say, "Wow, we're doing 4-part harmony." I'm thinking, no, we're not. We got 3 people singing the same thing and 1 person harmonizing.
Oh, yeah.
So I didn't tell him that, but that's what it was. But in this group, we're really doing some nice 3-part harmonies at time. And there's times probably when there's 4 of us singing, but we might be matching each other an octave apart, that kind of thing. But now we're really starting to do some 3-part harmonies that kind of gives me a thrill.
Does that come from the Beatles influence?
It does for me. I mean,
Yeah.
I grew up loving the Beatles, and McCartney and Lennon. they just I thought they did some great things with their harmonies. And I was listening to some old song today, and just to hear Paul McCartney's voice just soaring up there above John Lennon's, it was pretty cool, and I just always love that.
We have a very similar path in that regard, because harmonies are what really drew me to one of the projects that I was in, because we both had heavy Alice in Chains influences, and there was lots of harmonization in their music. And I'm not a strong singer by any stretch of the imagination. So being able to harmonize with somebody else created something that was better than anything that I could do myself.
Yeah.
And that's just an extra benefit, on top of liking the sound of harmonies, So that's really great that you all have 6 people that could sing. And I would imagine that has an influence on your set list. Like you said, you all pick out things that suit your voice, which is very smart. I kind of would swing for the fences on a few songs and just crash and burn, What an asset to have in the band is that ability.
When it comes to harmonizing, so there's a lot of songs, like if you do Crosby, Stills, and Nash, it's just beautiful harmony.
Yeah.
But we will just add harmony to whatever songs we're playing. So in some ways, we're making the songs better, I think, than the original.
I agree with that.
But even with songs that have harmony, I think we do a good job on them. And one of the things we were working on a few years ago was Day Tripper by the Beatles. And there was a part in the middle where there's a guitar solo, and over the guitar solo, there's 3 voices that are ascending chromatically up through the scale. And I thought, oh my gosh, we're never going to be able to do that, and we did it. It's kind of like I wanted to do a mic drop and say, I'm out. Done everything I can.
It's almost like you probably recreate some of the studio tricks on some of these songs with having that many people that could sing, and you would provide something more than some other bands that would just play just to give it their best shot. You all can take it a step further and make it better, like you said.
Yeah, I think so. I think in some ways we do, but not to put any other bands down. Each band has their own unique talents that they do, and David Schwartzer and Jay Finley, they've been in Middle Missouri all their lives, and they've played in a lot of different bands, and they say, one of the things about us is that we do harmonize, and that their other bands didn't do that at all. So I like that. I like that we have something somewhat unique. I know other bands harmonize too, but I like that that's something we do.
You mentioned some places that you play. I have the American Legion Hall in Jeff City, the 4th Friday of each month.
2nd and 4th.
2nd and 4th, great. Windstone Entertainment Center in Jeff City.
Yep, we'll be playing there tomorrow.
2nd Sunday of each month.
Except this month it's the 1st Sunday, because the 2nd Sunday is, for you sports fans,
Super Bowl
Sunday.
And Water Tower Bar and Grill in Jeff City, and Dive Bar in Columbia. Yes. And I do have the Fulton Farmers Market on there as well.
I also played at the Prison Brews as a solo performer.
I've heard of Prison Brews. I've never been there. I've heard good things about it.
It's good food. Good food. It's very tight on the inside for live music. Yeah. And it's better in the summertime when they have the outdoor area open. You've got more room to spread out.
Okay.
Well. But I was, for whatever reason, they let me come and play. I think it was the end of October, beginning of November. And it was a good crowd both nights. So again, it's kind of reinforcing to have a crowd of people that are listening and responding to music. And I enjoyed it.
I would really say that's in contrast to the lake, because everybody I've talked to and stuff, the overwhelming majority of people say that the lake is not very welcoming to original artists, with the exception of a couple places, obviously. But from my experience a long time ago, it was background music situation.
That's a lot of what music is.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the game is on and you're just there.
Yes.
I don't know why you're there, honestly. If they're putting the game on, most people are going to be watching the game or whatever. They probably bet on the game, so they're extra invested in it. But it's good to hear that the crowd is attentive and they actually care in Jeff City.
Yeah, I think they do. I think I feel like we've had good reaction from the crowds.
That's a relief. I've played a couple places in Jeff City, and I've seen. I went to like Mike's Corner Pocket back in the day, and there was another place on High Street. High Street was the main area.
Yeah, I forget what the other one's called. It's across the street. Mike's Corner Pocket is now Jay Finley's, I think, and I forget what the other one is called.
Yeah,
across the street.
Yeah, me too. There's quite a few. That's a busy downtown area.
It is, and they also in the summertime they have they'll do Thursday Night Live, where they close off the street and they have vendors and things, but they'll also have performers come out and play, and so we've done that a couple times. And at one point they had the Friday night art stroll, and same thing, they'd close off the streets and have performers set up at different spots around town, and I've done that a few times. And then the 4th of July celebration, they put up some pretty big stages around town and have people perform. And a new thing, relatively new thing, is called Porch Fest. And you might want to talk to the woman who runs Porch Fest. I'll send you her name. It's Leanne something.
Okay.
But she organizes this, one in the spring, one in the fall. And also they started doing one at Christmas time that they call Christmas Porch Fest. I don't know what they call it. But they'll shut off a street, and it's the same thing where they will have street vendors there, people, food trucks, and other types of artists from the area come out, and they set up and they're actually drawing or doing painting, and they have things there for kids to come out and play with. But they have musicians set up like every other house. There's a different performer there, and they've kind of learned over time not to have PA systems because you drown everybody else out.
Oh no!
But you go out there and you get an hour. So it usually goes from 1 to 4 in the afternoon, and each performer gets an hour. But there's a lot of performers because there's a lot of houses. Mm-hmm. They do it, I think it's Forest Hill in Jefferson City, which is off of West Main, very close to where St. Joseph's Cathedral is. Mm-hmm. And then the other one is out off of Clark Avenue, I think. I can't remember the name of the street out there. But it's really nice. It's a great community event. It's a tough gig for a performer because you can't drive in there and unload your stuff. You got to carry all your stuff in, set up, and you got to hope the group who's playing in front of you honors your time and stops when they're supposed to stop so that you have enough time to set up and play. And then you got to carry all of your stuff out, and you only get to play for an hour. So it's a tough gig for a musician, but it's a great community event, and I think Leanne does a wonderful job with it. They've been packed with people every time I've gone there.
That's really awesome. It seems like Jefferson City really embraces musicians through all these community activities. I've heard of Porch Fest. I heard about it this past year. Probably not the most lucrative thing to be a part of, but it sounds great, honestly.
Yeah, it is. I think the Christmas one is called Porch Festmas.
I like it.
Yeah, me too. I haven't done that one because I didn't want to be out in the cold.
Well, seeing these regular gigs, they looked a little bit different than what I was used to seeing. So how does one get gigs at like an American Legion and farmers markets like we touched on earlier? Because I would imagine it's not a traditional means of booking something like that.
Well, I don't even remember how I got the farmers market things going. I don't live in Fulton, and I don't go there very often, so I have no idea.
You just show up and start playing.
Yeah, I've had people do that at times. I probably knew of the one at Lincoln University, and so I started looking and calling around the different farmers markets, I guess, but I don't really remember how I got that. It's probably easier now with Facebook pages. The farmers markets all have Facebook pages, and you can look on there and it gives you contact information. But the overarching answer to the question is that getting gigs is a lot it's another component of being a performer. Like I have to be able to play the guitar, and I have to be able to sing, and I have to be able to get gigs. I have to be able to sell ourselves, which is really hard for me because I tend to be very shy and insecure. And so for me to go out there, put myself out there and say, hey, hire us to play, that was really hard for me to do. And I had heard somewhere the saying that if you have a weakness, make it your strength. So I've really worked hard over the years to get better at finding gigs, and I've gotten better at it. I'm much more comfortable calling people. It's still not, easy, but it's something that I had to work at, just like I have to work at playing a song. And then other things like the American Legion. That was kind of an accident because Jay Finley's wife knows a woman who's married to a guitar player who played at the American Legion. And they heard that one of the bands that they had playing one of the Friday nights during the month had decided to back out. And they said, well, you should call them, see if you guys can get in there. And, so it's one of those things where you call, and if you leave a message, maybe you get a call back. 90% of the times you don't get a call back, and you got to keep calling. And then I'm thinking, oh, am I bugging them? Uh-huh. And I am bugging them, but it's the only way to get there. And then, sometimes they'll say yes. But the American Legion said, it's a good thing that you called because we're looking for a group to fill in on the first Friday night of the month. And so we agreed to it. We went down there and we played. And so two things about that. By the end of that night, there's a guy who's there who's kind of in charge of setting up the music. And he came up to me and said, I want you guys here every month, and so that just made me feel so good. But the other thing about that place is that the people there dance.
Uh-huh.
They start dancing during the sound check.
Wow.
And they dance. We play there 8 to 11. They are on the floor until 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock comes, boom, they're gone like cockroaches when you turn the light on. But they are dancing every single song, which is unusual. Like if we play at the Dive Bar in Columbia, people are listening, but inside there's no room to dance, So American Legion has a big dance hall. So does dance floor. Windstone Entertainment Center has a 2,000 square foot dance floor. And it's the same thing. We play there, and they start dancing, and they're doing line dances, and they do the two-step, and they're just out there the whole time. So places like that, for me, are among the most pleasurable to play because you can see people responding.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's great.
And another thing is, they're not listening that closely, too. So, because I get terribly paranoid when I make a mistake. And so in a place like that, they're dancing, they're having fun. If I make a mistake, nobody notices. And so I thought, all right, good learning experience. Do it better next time.
It's nice to be a band and be so compatible with the venue and its audience, because there's a lot of people I talk to that they would kill to have people dancing to their music and stuff, to have that engagement with the crowd.
Yeah, that interaction.
To kind of ask an ugly question in relation to all that, are those paying gigs, or do you play for tips?
Those both. They're paying gigs, and we play for tips.
That's cool. Well, the reason I ask that is because the people that listen, I'm sure there's bands and artists that listen. If we can show them that there's other viable options out there, that this could be beneficial to them, So a lot of people are looking to, make that change and help with some funds and all that.
And you have to find the place that is right for the style of music that you play, which is another reason why I don't want to play in bars, because they like the heavier kind of music in bars. And we started out, you mentioned that you were in an acoustic duo. So we started out as an acoustic duo, and then we became a 4-person acoustic group, 2 guitars, but 4 singers. And even when we added the bass player, and right now we have 3 guitar players, and we all play acoustic guitars. But now we've got the bass, and then we added the drums last summer. And so we're still softer than I think people want to hear. Matter of fact, we were asked to leave one bar because they said we were too mellow. While we were playing,
really,
we were asked to leave. but that was I think it was just one person who was complaining and had the ear of the owner. But we are mellow, but we do play heavier songs also. We'll play Bachman Turner Overdrive. We play Don't Fear the Reaper. So we play some
with cowbell, I hope.
With cowbell.
Yes.
And you cannot take out a cowbell without someone saying, "I've got a fever." But yes, we do have a cowbell.
That's great.
So and now I was thinking about this. So I put together the playlist for each gig that we're going to have, and I was thinking, a gig or two ago, I said, "Man, this is a really good playlist. Like there's no dud songs in here where we're just trying to make sure we got enough songs to get through the whole night. They were all and they were all kind of up tempo songs, so if people want to dance, that's a good thing. And so when we play at the place like the American Legion, we will play a different style of music than if we play at a place like the Water Tower Bar and Grill, because the Water Tower is a bar, and so we go in there and we play more of what I think of as bar music. The American Legion is more of an older crowd that like to dance. They like country music. They like country line dancing. They like waltzes. We were playing the first time we were playing there. While we're playing, a song stops, and this fella comes up, stands right in front of Travis Thornhill. He said, "We like waltzes."
Wow.
And so we learned some more waltzes. And one guy came up to me, and he said, and he's married, and he was my neighbor for a while, and he's like 92 years old. And he comes out to the American Legion to dance. And he comes up to me, and he says, so-and-so has told me she's been waiting for 20 years to dance a polka with me. Do you guys know any polkas? I said, she's been waiting 20 years. I said, you better tell her to get some new goals. So we learned a polka. We play the beer barrel polka now when we go there so that they can dance.
There's a lesson to be learned here, folks. You got to know your audience.
Yeah, you do.
And you can't just bring the same set list to every place you go to.
And some people don't want to do that. They want to say, "Oh no, we're the musicians. You got to listen to us." But we try to give them what they want. And having Jay and Dave in the band, they are both kind of country guys, so they know a lot of the old country music, like Ray Price. David knows songs like Ricochet and some of the groups like that. Travis has a pretty vast variety in the kind of music that he plays. He plays a 12-string, and like nice. I said, I'm a Beatles fan. I think Matt is primarily a Beatles fan, but also has a large variety of music that he likes. And so we try to learn songs that we each like, and then we play them where we can. 7
decades is the set list, what the set list covers. And that would provide a very good level of versatility to be able to cater to your audience and give them something that they want. You mentioned you guys were really mellow. You must be just mellow enough, because if you got all these dancers,
We're not as mellow as we used to be, especially since we added the drums, because it's hard to be mellow with drums. And
they're always wild animals back there behind the kit.
Dave's nickname is the Hammer.
There you go, yep.
Because of how hard he hits it. But he's a great drummer, a nice guy too.
That's cool.
But yeah, we're not nearly as mellow as we used to be. I even went back to that bar that kicked us out, and they were interested in having us back. New owner, but it said something to me about me that I was willing to go back there. That I thought we can handle that crowd now.
Absolutely. Why acoustic? Has there been any discussion to make a change with that?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I've been practicing my electric guitar this week because I think I'm going to bring it tomorrow. But we started out as an acoustic group. Like, it was just me on acoustic guitar and another woman singing, and then we added another guy on guitar, and he played the acoustic guitar. And I think we thought that was kind of what made us us. It was kind of our niche, and so we've kind of stuck to that. Even though we have effects on the acoustic guitars that make them sound like Stratocasters and things. I have been thinking about it, and one of the other guys in the band said to me last time we played, he said, "You ought to bring an electric guitar." And so I think I'm gonna start making that change, because you can play different things on the electric guitar. You know, it's easier to bend the notes. And,
Sure.
you can go higher up on the fretboard. So I think we will be evolving in that direction soon.
That's exciting. I would imagine that'll open up a lot more opportunities.
In places to play, you mean, or just in music?
And with the set list. Yeah,
Oh, yeah. And it will change the way that we play the songs on the set list already.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. I think there's a lot of people who would hesitate to do something like that.
Well, I've been hesitating for 12 years.
This is Alex from Tapeside.
This is Levi with Mad Existence.
Hey. This is Tony McKee from the Whiskey Trio. You are listening to the Missouri Musicians Then and Now podcast.
We talked a little bit about why you're doing this, why you're playing music still. And something I had written down was, what are your musical goals?
I'm not a big goal person.
Yeah.
I just kind of float along through life, and things keep coming along.
Just going with the flow?
Yeah, but I get a thrill when we play music. You know, like, I'm so excited about tomorrow already that I'll have trouble sleeping tonight. And I just get a thrill out of it. Even though, you know, I mentioned that I'm shy. So I have terrible stage fright. And a couple of years ago, I played in churches a lot during my life. And a few years ago, I was standing up in front of a church. And this was not a lot of years ago, maybe 6 years ago. And I noticed my knees were shaking. My knees were literally shaking. And I've been playing in churches for 30 years. And I said, oh, I guess that's just me. You know?
Huh.
And so now I try to let my knees shake if they want to, but I'm playing anyway. And so it's very hard for me still. I get anxious and blah, 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 but I still notice that excitement when I'm going to do it. And so the excitement still outweighs the fear. And so I do it just because I love doing it. And I love doing it with a group of people, with other people. But I really love doing it with this group. I really enjoy this group of people. You know, when we have rehearsals, you know, at the end of the rehearsal, people say, "Oh, I needed that. That was like therapy for me this week." And we have so much fun when we're together. The joking and that kind of thing. It's just, it probably wouldn't be all that funny to an outsider listening in, but we are all having so much fun and enjoying each other. And I think we also enjoy the process of working together. And in a way, I think of a song is like a big glob of clay. And whether it's an original song that you're writing or a cover song that you're learning, you're kind of chipping away at that clay and trying to mold it into what you want it to be. And I enjoy doing that by myself, but it's even more enjoyable when you're doing it with other people that are working on the same direction, and there are other people that you like. It's just, it's kind of a cool thing.
So personally and creatively, you all just really hit it off.
I think so.
That's great. That's a winning formula for sure. And a lot of
Yes.
people strive to find that, and it takes forever.
It's not easy to find. You know, so many bands break up. You know, a lot of musicians have pretty big egos. I don't think there's anybody in our group with a big ego.
I talked to Tyler and Chance from Etched in Embers a while back, and Chance, his dad is in the band, and his thing that he said was, I'm ready to take this band to the next level because I feel like we have the right group of people to do it. And that speaks volumes about getting the right people and having the right interests and just getting along with each other.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't like each other, you don't want to go do it.
Yeah, there's no longevity in there for you.
You know, one other thing I wanted to say is, you know, because I mentioned that I played as a solo performer at Prison Brews, and so I've done that over the years, and what I kind of jokingly say that playing by yourself, it's twice the work and half the fun. And,
It's interesting that you would play by yourself with your stage fright and stuff.
yeah, that is interesting.
So you're kind of an anomaly here with all this, but I think that speaks to the level of enjoyment that you have doing all of it, that you're willing to just push forward through the anxiety and things of that nature.
And it makes it more enjoyable. Like I can sing at home. I don't get the thrill sit in my home office and singing for myself. It's like, yeah, nobody cares.
Well, and Cindy's in the band with you, so she's heard it all, I'm sure.
Yes, she has.
Well, Mike, let's get into a little bit of your musical background, because you're a veteran in music. I can tell. So how did you get into all this?
I have an older relative. He's my father's cousin. He's in his 80s now, and he was a professional musician. It's how he earned his living throughout his entire life, and put out records and such, and just never made it big. But I loved him. He was my hero growing up. I couldn't wait to go to family gatherings and he would be there, especially if he was going to play his guitar. And he was a guitar player and singer. And so I wanted to be like him. And my dad and he were very close growing up. They were close in age, and they were very close. And so I didn't know this until maybe a year or two ago. I went out to New Jersey to visit my cousin, and he said, your dad's the one who gave me my very first guitar.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know that. And I think at some point that guitar made its way back into our house and was just kind of sitting around. And so I kind of started picking it up and just, plucking away at it. And then one day I was in high school, and another student came in with a book of Beatles songs. And I remember he had the book open, and there was this diagram in there with lines and dots, and it showed you exactly where to put your fingers if you want to play a chord. And I thought, well, I can do that if it tells you where to do it. And that's when I really started to take off on it. And I think the first song I learned was Home, Home on the Range.
Okay.
And then pretty quickly after that, I wrote my first song. So I started writing songs, and probably that was also an influence of the Beatles, that the Beatles wrote songs. Because if you think back before the Beatles, most of the time people were singing songs like Frank Sinatra. They were singing songs that somebody else wrote for them. When the Beatles came along, and they're starting to write their own songs. So that kind of changed things in the world of music. And for me personally, there was something about that I really thought was kind of cool, and so I wanted to do that too.
I didn't realize the Beatles brought that to the table.
Probably not completely, but they probably, it was probably like a mushroom cloud, and they pushed it up and out over the top, because other people wrote songs, Jerry Lee Lewis and some of those other folks, but I think the Beatles had a big hand in that.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's really neat.
One other thing I did want to say when you were asking about, I've been doing this a long time, how did I get started? So mostly I just, was just playing for myself, or I'd go to a party. And that's another thing about being shy, is if I could take a guitar with me, people want to be around somebody who's playing a guitar, because a lot of people like to sing, they like to listen. And so it was a way for me to cover up my shyness. Mm-hmm. It was kind of a way to, in a way, escape from the pressure of having to be socially interactive. And you're playing the guitar, you don't have to talk to anybody. So,
sure. So
that was a big part of why I did it, particularly when I was younger and in that kind of that stage of my life. But over time, then you meet more people, and other people who want to play with other people, and so it kind of became that, and other people say, hey, we got to get together and blah blah blah, and sometimes that would develop into something professional, sometimes just something for fun. But I was playing in a duet, acoustic duet called Harmony, no surprise there, I guess, and I was also going to college, and I thought, I had no idea. You ask about goals. I had no idea what I was doing in college. I just knew it was time to go to college. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, I'm going to become a music major. So I became a music major for a while in college. And I did really well in my music classes, whereas other classes not so well. But I was taking classical guitar
Wow.
while I was in college. You know, as a music major, you have to pick an instrument, whether it's going to be voice or piano or whatever it was. You know, so I picked guitar, and the guitar teacher they had was a classical guitar teacher. So I learned things from him. Well, and one of the best things that he taught me was about rhythm, because I've always struggled with rhythm and staying in time and on beat. And he had me put down the guitar and just practice tapping my leg and tapping my foot at the same time and doing different rhythms that way. And that was a big help to me. And it's kind of funny because I have a friend who I've been giving some guitar tips to, some guitar lessons to, and I have him do that. I can see how he struggles to get his foot, it's like patting your head and rubbing your belly. Mm-hmm. They want to do the same thing. It's really hard to separate that. I also think that is, I have a degree in occupational therapy, and so I've done a lot of studying of brain science, and I worked with head injured folks for a while. And so I think things that require you to do different things with different parts of your body at the same time, like playing the piano or tapping your foot and doing different things, all of those things are good for brain health. But so I was studying the classical guitar with him. Then I went for some private lessons, and I had jazz guitar teachers. And I was living in Trenton, New Jersey at the time. And this was kind of an interesting thing, but I started going to this one music school, and the guy that taught there was a jazz player, and he's really good. And just turned out he also happened to be a Jehovah's Witness. Mm-hmm. And his teacher was a jazz player and a Jehovah's Witness. And his teacher was a jazz player and a Jehovah's Witness. So in that particular area, a lot of the good jazz guitar players were also Jehovah's Witnesses. And that had nothing to do with my music, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
So I had the classical training from one fellow, jazz from another one, and then I met another guy who also was a Jehovah's Witness, but he was a rock and roll guitar player. And so I learned a lot of rock things from him. And so I think I have a diverse musical upbringing.
Yeah, you come a long way from looking in that book with the Beatles songs and the dots where you put your fingers. I'm sure that really plays a big part into what you're doing now, that background.
It does into the harmony, because I understand how chords are created. And so when we're singing, I say, well, what note are you singing? Oh, I'm singing this. What about you? Oh, here, you know what? If I do this one, then we've got the 3 notes of a chord. And that's what we'll do.
Got some theory in there.
Yeah.
Huh? Interesting. Yeah. I'm talking to Mike from the Copper Creek Band, coppercreekband.live. Everybody check that out. And Copper Creek Band on Facebook as well. There was a few that popped up when I searched.
Yeah, there are.
But I didn't write down the actual handle. It's the Copper Creek Band.
Yes, you have to have the in there to get to us.
Well, Mike, you've been doing this for a long time. You got to have a time when things just went horribly wrong. Musical mishaps, I call it. What happened? The story that you'll tell everybody about when things went horribly wrong.
This might be something you have to edit out.
Okay, that's fair.
But this was a farmer's market. Farmer's markets start at 8 o'clock in the morning and go till noon. So, and I am pathologically early. So it starts at 8 o'clock. I'm usually there by 6:30.
Wow.
Fulton Farmer's Market, 6:30. I'm often there before any of the vendors. At certain times of year, it's dark out when I get there. So I'm there and I'm setting up, and I have Crohn's disease. And I didn't know it back then. I only recently learned I have Crohn's disease, but I had it then. And I'm setting up, and all of a sudden, I feel like I really got to go to the bathroom. And it feels like it's going to be, I didn't know what it was going to be. Mm-hmm. Might be giving birth. I don't know what it was going to be. But we play right in front of a bank, and I thought, bank's not open. The bank doesn't open till 9 o'clock. But there's a drugstore across the street. So I'm going across the street, and I'm clenching every muscle in my body, and the drugstore's not open yet.
Oh, no.
And I think, all right, there's a coffee shop down the street. They got to be open in the morning. It's like a block and a half away, and I'm clenching every muscle in my body. My wife is going to absolutely kill me for telling this story. But I get to the coffee shop, and it's closed. Doesn't open till 10. And I noticed right before I got to the coffee shop, there was an alley.
Oh, no.
And so I went down the alley, and there was an air conditioner condenser unit there. And I thought, okay, that's good enough. And so I went behind there, and I dropped my drawers down, and I had an explosive diarrhea.
Oh, no.
And then I turned and looked at the other end of the alley, and it's wide open. And there's a woman walking her dog past the end of the alley. She did not act like she looked in and saw me there. But that was they say beans, the musical fruit. So
Yeah.
maybe that was a musical mishap. I don't know.
Oh, man, Mike.
But that was but it's been a good story to tell people.
Is that the thing that made you think, hey, there's something wrong with me, and then you learned that you had Crohn's? That's a pretty serious disease.
No, I just thought maybe it was because I stopped at McDonald's.
Yeah, that's a safe bet usually.
And because the only time I would have that explosive diarrhea would be on a Saturday morning when I went to the Fulton Farmers Market and I stopped and had McDonald's on the way there. But it was only like within the last few months that my doctor said, "You've got Crohn's disease."
Dang.
So that explains a lot of musical mishaps.
Oh, man.
And I didn't know this either, but Crohn's disease is an autoimmune thing.
Yeah.
And both of my kids have autoimmune things. I didn't know that I did. So they must have gotten it from me.
Huh.
I don't think either of them have ever pooped in an alley, but they certainly have gotten the autoimmune disorders from me.
Oh, man. That's awful.
Will you have to edit that out?
That's up to you, sir. That's up to you.
I'm okay if you tell it.
Oh, man. All right. Well, man, where do you go after that? I
the
think,
bathroom.
Yeah. I meant to ask you, are you all going to put out a CD of any kind, or where can people find your music online?
Only if they come and listen to us live.
Yeah?
And they better come. Dance, tip heavy. We talk about making a CD because Travis has a pretty good recording system in, he calls it his studio. It's a separate building on his property. And so we talk about it, but we just haven't, sometimes an idea has to hit a certain threshold before it happens. And we haven't hit that threshold yet.
That's all right.
So we might do it, we might not. But I have made, I've written a lot of songs. And so from time to time I'll make a CD, and sometimes I'll give them away at farmers markets and such. But I had one, and these are all original songs if I make a CD.
Okay.
I had one that I called it the No Whales album. And on the back I said there were no whales harmed in the making of this CD. And I like to try to add humor to whatever I do.
Ease the tension.
Yeah, and I think that helps with the band too. That if you keep people laughing, they don't have time to fight.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty interesting, that putting a CD out isn't like a big goal or priority, especially because what you're doing now it's successful on many levels. Like we said earlier, that engagement with the crowd is that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And you're going to introduce some electric guitar into what you're doing and stuff. So, maybe down the road, that'll be part of that growth process. But in the meantime, I did see there were some videos on the Facebook.
Yes.
So if you all want to check out the Copper Creek Band, jump on that Facebook.
They might be pretty old videos.
Yeah.
That might have been Apostles Creek times.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure people know where to find you. But it sounds to me like if you go to a live show, you will have a great time, and you better be ready to dance.
Yes, if you want to dance, you'll have a good time.
Mike Gorman, the Copper Creek Band, coppercreekband.live. I appreciate your time, sir.
I've loved being here.
Well, let's talk again soon. Take care.